the Guardian newspaper. And right below that, we have the analysis, quite worrisome, talking about drug abuse in Nigeria. 1 in 7 Nigerians between the ages of 15 and 64 use drugs. 1 in 7, that's actually 14.3%. Quite worrisome. Still on that, 14.4% age 15 to 64 affected. That actually should be 14.3%. 1 in 7 is 14.28571. So approximately 14.3%. So just a slight error from the statistician right there. So 14.3% age 15 to 64 affected. Then we have 82.5% of boys in corrections challenged. Quite worrisome, quite worrisome. 1 in 7, 14.3% affected by drugs in Nigeria. Still on that, children as young as 11 now abuse substances. But children as young as 11 abuse substances. So parents and guardians should really keep their eyes open and know what their children are doing at every point in time. Just imagine having a child of, 11 who is already addicted to substances.
It's quite sad, Daniel, but this is where we have found ourselves in the country at the moment. It has been ongoing for a while, but then it's more alarming now, just as I was saying yesterday about the peak of poverty, in the rural areas. Let's talk about other climes, senior climes, where they have everything going. The rate of depression is alarming there. The rate of substance abuse is alarming there. Now let's bring it back to Nigeria, where things are not working. Our sectors are down. Education, agriculture, the oil, which we treated yesterday, health. Everything is down. And this is not a place where you can go in and speak to a doctor that you're stressed. The doctor looks at you and says, I'm stressed. Every Nigerian is stressed. And it seems like a normal thing. But what I'm saying is, even those homes where those children are from, and you saw the age, to 64. So even the parents that you're asking to mind the children are not even okay. They are abusers too. But what brought us here is what we should be talking about, not the issue itself. We should go back to the root. What causes it? What are the causes? What are the factors mitigating these things? So we just need to, we really always need to get to the roots, not scrap, or always scrape things from the top.
On the surface.
We have an imminent danger in the society. We have lack of, people cannot get educated. When you even get into the school, funding is a problem. They're talking about loans, and it's already a problem. We're talking about courtism and all of that. A lot of things can push you to the precipice.
Absolutely. Well, it's quite worrisome.
It's worrisome
tender age at which
and we just need to look at it as a whole, not in part.
Absolutely. Quite worrisome. So for parents and guardians, please keep your eyes open. And for those who need help, for the adults too, just like you said, for the adults themselves who are using, who need help.
I think please, even our doctors
you should seek help.
Need to get checked.
Absolutely. Everyone is affected.
Everyone.
It can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. And right beside that in blue, you see the statistic there, the breakdown. They have about 10,572 convictions. Then talking about, that's for the convictions. This is not quite clear. Then we have other figures there, 22,047. Talking about those who are counseled and rehabilitated, 22,047. Then of course we have another figure, 3,333,678. I guess that should be talking about.
Well, did you see?
Not so
did you see what's
here,
right there under where it says Nigeria's drug crisis and says total summary of arrests, seizures. Prosecution and I really cannot. And DDR,
exactly. Not so clear. I was trying to take
from
it from
January 2021 to December 2024. Yeah, and I think what we're seeing here is including 65 drug, barons or something, or excons. I can't really.
Yeah. I was actually trying to take it from the bottom, talking about those rehabilitated, those convicted, but in total, we have about 9,959,340.9 cases in total, which is quite worrisome. Talking about drug abuse and drug addiction generally in Nigeria, I think everyone should get involved. Not just parents, not just guardians. We have religious bodies. I mean, everyone should have their hands on deck, because this is a serious issue before it degenerates into something else. Nigeria is still safe. I mean, you go to some places around the world. Thankfully, we don't see that here in Nigeria. When someone, a school kid, a 16-year-old or 14-year-old school kid who just go to school with some guns and start, shooting everyone, killing everyone, or someone goes with a knife and starts attacking everyone because they are mentally challenged, they're depressed, whatever it is. But thankfully, we don't have that yet here in Nigeria. But we should actually work towards avoiding that, because it's still pretty safe here. We don't have school shootings, we don't have attacks like that at malls. It's pretty safe here. But again, if this keeps going like this, I think we should be worried, and we should do something about that. Away from that, moving on to other stories, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning. CSOs demand Akpabio's resignation as court affirms conviction of returning officer. CSOs demand Akpabio's resignation as court affirms conviction of returning officer. You'll find a story on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Again, talk where if the court is finding, returning officer for the election that brought someone into office guilty of declaring fake results, then why are we not talking about the person holding the office? I don't get it. I don't understand. The court is convicting the returning officer, saying he announced fake results. But why are we not talking about the person holding that office? What's happening? What kind of drama is this?
Well, I don't know what to say. For the first time, I said a word.
Right. That's Nigeria for you. I really hope. They're calling him to resign. Of course. If you're honorable, that's what you should do. Just resign first. But again, Senate president resigning in Nigeria, I pray, like they say. Away from that, moving on to other stories. Still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Federal Executive Council prioritizes local industry under Nigeria First policy. Federal Executive Council prioritizes local industry under Nigeria First policy. You'll find a story on page 5 of the Guardian newspaper. Away from that, 77%
Before we go away from that, Dan, when we say FEC is prioritizing local industry, that's great. It's great news. But the government, the people in government, are they going to prioritize Nigeria first? Would that begin from their furniture? Would that begin from their vehicles? Would that begin with what they fly? Let's just talk, to the points. Nigeria first for who?
For Nigerians.
For Nigerians. Are they not Nigerians?
They are special. They are special Nigerians.
Oh, they're in the league of their...
absolutely. You're just being sarcastic right there. But sincerely, if you're to prioritize Nigeria first, you should show example. I've said this several times before, that if we're truly sincere about Nigeria first, public office holders, there should be a law. We should review our constitution. Public office holders shouldn't be allowed to go for medical treatment outside Nigeria.
Exactly.
That's number one. They shouldn't be allowed to send their children and wards to school outside Nigeria. That's the only way they can fix the health sector, the education sector, and every other sector in Nigeria. So if you're talking about Nigeria first, you should show examples.
Begin with you.
Absolutely. Away from that, 77% of UTME candidates score below 200. Quite worrisome. 77% scoring below 200. I think I saw that report yesterday about 1.5 million candidates scoring below 200. And I was just laughing. I was just shaking my head. What has happened to our standard of education? It's falling. We're talking about just 200 here, 200 out of 400. We're talking about 50%. Why are children finding it hard to score 200 in JAMB? I just don't get it.
It's just the same reason why substance abuse has risen. And that's why you begin to see level of concentration dropping.
But it wasn't like that. I mean, in my time,
because things were not this bad.
When I was writing JAMB, when I was writing JAMB, you dare not come out. I mean, you dare not come out and say among my friends that you scored 200. You can't even say you scored 230. You can't. You just keep quiet. You just hide your face. We're talking about 280. Oh, okay. Well, I think we should look at our standard of education right here. So that's quite worrisome as well. Away from that, moving on to other stories, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Electoral Act, crucial bills up for debate as Senate, House of Reps resume today. Electoral Act, crucial bills up for debate as Senate, House of Reps resume today. You find that story on page 6 of the Guardian. Dangote hails Tinubu for appointments in energy sector. Dangote hails Tinubu for appointments in energy sector. You find that story on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. Away from that, Atiku warns against state-sponsored repression as EFCC officers offers reasons rather for activist VDM's arrest. Atiku warns against state-sponsored repression as EFCC offers reasons for activist VDM's arrest, talking about very dark man who was recently arrested. We'll talk more about that later on the program today. Away from that, imperative of improved aviation operations before Fly Nigeria Act. Imperative of improved aviation operations before Fly Nigeria Act. That's on the editorial page 2, right there. You find that at the editorial section of the newspaper this morning. Right beneath that, on the bottom strip, terrorism. Parliamentary group advises US against designating Nigeria. Parliamentary group advises US against designating Nigeria. Talking about terrorism, you find that story on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Away from that, Plateau killings, police arrest more suspects, recover illegal arms in fresh raids. Plateau killings, police arrest more suspects, recover illegal arms in fresh raids. You find the story on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper. And that'll be all from the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
All right, so let's make a smooth transition right now to Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Let's begin with the banner headline. It says crisis in Northwest Development Commission over scholarship scheme. Crisis in Northwest Development Commission over scholarship scheme. And just above that, below the nameplate, it says here, police launch probe as 5 children die inside abandoned vehicle. Police launch probe as 5 children die inside abandoned vehicle, which is right there on Daily Trust newspaper. 2025 UTME over 75%, score below 200. Constitution review. Insecurity, tax bills top agenda as NAS resumes today. The Constitution review, insecurity, tax bills top agenda as NAS resumes today on page 13 of Daily Trust newspaper. And just below the picture right there on Daily Trust newspaper, 25 killed as bandits, vigilantes clash in Bauchi. 25 killed as bandits, vigilantes clash in Bauchi. I think there's a rise now of security operatives, you know, of a rise in their attack and deaths these days. And we're just talking about the one that happened right here. And, you know, she talked about another, you know, where some soldiers, about 15 of them or so, 9, I can't remember the figure, you know, they also lost their lives. And now 25 killed as bandits, vigilantes clash. We don't know how many, you know, of the security operatives also lost their lives in this battle. But here, just below that, to the bottom strip, new NNPCL leadership supporting my $20 billion refinery. That's according to Dangote right there on Daily Trust. And we can understand why from the Guardian newspaper, he was, commending Tinubu for the appointments in energy sector, because they're giving, support to his establishment, the refinery, right this moment. On page 36 of Daily Trust newspaper, Gazan staff, as usual, plans expanded operations. And just beside that, on page 21, woman in court for marrying two husbands. Woman in court for marrying two husbands. She's guilty of bigamy right there. Oh. But well, they say that there's a level you walked in on earth and you begin to see strange things, strange occurrences, strange happenings. All right, those headlines right here on Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
And from the front page of the Daily Trust, we move straight to the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper. Bandits, herdsmen wreak more havoc. Bandits, herdsmen wreak more havoc. With the rider, kill 19 in Bauchi communities. 2 in Benue, kidnap 4 passengers also. I'm talking about activities of bandits wreaking more havoc in some areas. Quite unfortunate right there. Away from that, moving to the top strip of the Daily Sun newspaper. Uzodinma, Southeast APC leadership resolves to make party dominant in zone. Uzodinma, Southeast APC leadership resolves to make party dominant in zone. Talking about their party in the Southeast zone, you'll find a story on page 26 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Away from that, students protest alleged mismanagement of 100 billion naira student loans. Student protest alleged mismanagement of 100 billion naira student loans. With the rider, block Lagos-Ibadan highway. Okay, I guess that's another story. Still under that, block Lagos-Ibadan highway. Demand presidential probe. Still talking about the controversies surrounding the NEL Fund, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund. Quite unfortunate. When you hear these figures and you begin to wonder where have they gone to, the students are not getting those funds the way they should. And when the government come out to say, oh, we've disbursed this, we've disbursed 45 billion out of 203 and all that, now the students are protesting. They are asking questions. They want the president to look into this. Away from that, moving on to other stories, still on the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper. Right there, to the left, you see pictures of some APC leaders. You see Senator Ojuzo Kalu, Abia North, middle. You see Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State as the governor of Imo State, and you see Governor Francis Nwifuru of Ebonyi State, together with other, dignitaries right there at the APC leaders meeting, Southeast APC leaders in Enugu. And then to the right, you see the president of Gabon right there, and of course, with the group chairman of UBA, Tony Lumelu. Just talking about business right there. Away from that, still on the front page of Daily Sun newspaper, UTME, over 1.5 million scored less than 200. That's according to Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board. UTME, over 1.5 million scored less than 200. Quite unfortunate, quite worrisome. Away from that, FGOKs over 750 billion naira for road construction. FGOKs over 750 billion naira for road construction. And finally, from the front page of the Daily Sun, Dangote hails Tinubu over NNPCL appointment, says oil cabal bent on crippling his refinery. Then finally, from the front page of the Sun, we have NIJ lecture, AI reshaping public governance architecture, says customs boss. And that'll be all from the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper this morning.
All right, let's quickly take a review of the headlines as they appear in Vanguard newspaper this morning. And right here, let's begin with the top strip. And it says, federal government bans procurement of foreign goods produced locally. Federal government bans procurement of foreign goods produced locally. So that means really that Dan, you cannot purchase anything. Let's say there's a suit making company that is not of Nigerian descent, but is being produced in Nigeria. You cannot procure that. You can't. And so you should just take note of that.
Well, do you think that should work? Do you think that will happen in Nigeria?
I don't.
You can always get whatever you want in Nigeria.
We know how to make laws. We know how to, pass the bills and, approve them. But implementation is what we're talking about. How do you implement it? Do you even know?
Even when you implement it, there are people who say, fine, but if I can't get it in Nigeria, I can just fly to Italy just to pick up a suit. So you can't stop me.
Right, Rivers setback for PDP governors as Delta pulls out of suit before Supreme Court. And that's is on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper this morning. And VDM to be released today faces multiple charges in court Saturday. That on page 7, and I think that's good news to some Nigerians to hear that VDM is to be released today, but he is to face multiple charges in court Thursday. From what I was reading, there's an EFCC source was quoted to have said that he was arrested for cyber stalking. It is, he has been insulting individuals and assaulting them, through his platforms.
Then why not let those individuals file a case against him? Why is the EFCC being proactive at this point?
That's a valid point.
VDM.
And that EFCC, when did it leave economic and financial? I mean, it's all good. All right, the topmost strip says fresh concerns mount over budget 2025 as oil price drops further to $59 per barrel. That's on page 25 of Vanguard newspaper this morning. And the banner headline says, anti-Tinubu coalition, not alone, can't decide 2027. That's according to presidency. Not alone can't decide 2027 presidency. That's according to Tanko Yekasai and the ACF right there. These riders not has the numbers to decide who wins. ACF. And here we're not after power, but fixing Nigeria. League of Northern Democrats. And right here, coalition remains on course. Atiku's aid. All right, the several talks right there. North has the numbers to decide who wins. And here it says North alone can decide 2027 presidency. All right, it's just dissenting views there. And right here, still they
can't decide. They can't decide. Okay, they may have the number, but they can't decide. So they need support from other regions of the country. Absolutely.
All right. Okay, and right here, Gabonese award for Elumelu. And just before that, right there, Paulo leads the way in education reforms. That's according to his aide, and that's on page 26 of Vanguard newspaper. Booming abduction industry in Edo Delta. Kidnappers forced town to contribute 10 million naira ransom and jollof rice. That's on page 12. We begin to see some very, very ridiculous requests from kidnappers these days. And it brings us back to what some stakeholders have said. Stop paying kidnappers, stop all of that. But you have someone whose loved one is in face of imminent death, or facing imminent death, and then you're saying they shouldn't pay. But now we can also see the danger of actually paying, or actually consenting to some of their demands. You begin quite
unfortunate that actually case they paid, even after paying ransom, they still killed the victim, and they were still holding on to the wife or so. But now it's quite laughable. Now kidnappers demanding jollof rice. What won't we see in Nigeria? Kidnappers demanding, are they hungry?
They have demanded cash before, and it has to be some certain denominations. They have demanded that you bring them not this particular.
You know what I think I'm talking for them to be demanding. I mean, funny things like this, jollof rice. It simply means they are taking the security agencies for granted. They are telling them that you guys are not doing your jobs. We can actually do what we like. Just imagine kidnappers demanding jollof rice just to tell you that they feel they can do anything and absolutely anything and get away with it. And again, like you said, if the authorities are saying do not pay them ransom, then what alternative are you giving the people? Can the people trust you to rescue their loved ones when they are kidnapped?
In
That's
time.
the question.
In time. It just brings me back to the question that I asked the leader of the Amotekun Corps yesterday. Are these people more organized than our security architecture in Nigeria? I mean, what do they have? What step do they have ahead of you? How far gone are they? And where are you? Are you trying to even step up?
And if you ask me, like I call them ragtag. These guys are not organized. They are not technologically inclined. They don't have all those high-tech gadgets.
They don't have
high-tech gadgets.
It's an organized crime they're carrying out.
They are not.
It's very much organized, believe me.
These guys are not, as far as I'm concerned, we are not dealing with organized crime here.
I think they are. You're looking for organized. We're not talking about sophistication. We're not talking about sophistication or technology. We're talking about being organized in their plans, in the way they actually carry out these things.
My concern is failure of intelligence on the part of security agencies.
And what does that bring to you?
More about intelligence.
That brings you back to, that's what we call organization. Everything has to be aligned.
Because if these guys who are not so intelligent are pulling this off, that's what I'm saying.
They must have a lot of collaboration.
So and they're pulling all this off.
Because they have people who bring them food per time. On on designated days at designated hours, and we just hope that we get, we move ahead and we make headway. Let's quickly run through the rest of the stories right there. Dangote thanks Tinubu for revolutionary change in oil and gas sector. That story is right there on page 9 of Vanguard newspaper. And just beside that, sport 2025. On the 20 AFCON, Chile hits Egypt to support Flying Eagles. That there is on page 30. Those headlines right there on the page of Vanguard newspaper this morning.
All right, that'll be all from the front pages this morning. That brings us to the conclusion of the newspaper review segment of the show this morning. We'll take a short break. When we return, the program continues. You do not want to miss the next segment. Please stay with us.